Good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. Well, good morning. Welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Sorry, I was running a little bit late. My internet was a little bit clogged up. So thanks again for joining me this morning. And let's start with honoring God with our body. So God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please help me to honor my body, or honor you with my body, and honor you with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And if you are just joining us for the first time, this is something we try to say daily, or at least some type of prayer to get our hearts and our minds right for this morning as we dive into some of today's headlines and topics. I usually start off the day with either trending topics on X or all sides, but I'm going to do something a little bit different today.
Made each of them realize that everything they believed was built on flawed thinking.
Which would you rather have in America, socialism or capitalism?
I would say socialism.
How do you view the word socialism, favorably or unfavorably?
I guess I would go with favorably.
Like, I have family in Europe. They go to college for free. Their healthcare is paid for. They don't have to worry about it at all.
I favor that over capitalism.
I also think I favor socialism over capitalism.
Socialism is more geared toward helping the governed.
I'd rather people have that same opportunity, a lot of excess in America.
The main idea of socialism being that people at the top are doing their fair share to help people at the bottom, trying to prevent disparity of income and trying to prevent excess, as you called it. So on campus, if there's a GPA disparity where there's people at the bottom with the poor GPA, would you support a policy where people at the top spread the wealth and give that GPA to people at the bottom?
Help them get a better GPA. I'm all for helping. I wouldn't give let me just give you some of my points.
But it's about being fair, right? We got to help people at the bottom.
I've lost a lot of sleep, so I don't know if I will be fair.
It would be kind of hypocritical for me to say no.
That's completely different.
How's it different?
Because I'm studying all day for my grade.
What do you mean by sharing it? Literally giving them a chunk of my GPA?
Yep.
I would want to say no straight up.
But what's the difference between earning a high GPA and not wanting to give it away, but then earning a lot of money and also not wanting to give that away?
I feel like the difference is that you study for your grades, right? And grades often reflect how much time you spend studying.
I work pretty hard to become a millionaire.
I mean, I'm not denying that fact either, but for the regular working person, you know.
Do you think there's a similarity between earning your salary and maybe not wanting to give it away to people that aren't working to earn it? And same thing with the GPA, where you earn it and you say, well, I don't necessarily want to give it to anyone who might not be working for it.
Right. I think it's just that whole sense of thinking that no one's going to work for it.
I mean, I sacrifice a lot to get my GPA. You know, I don't go out as much as I'd like to, but that's for a greater goal in the future. So no, I wouldn't sacrifice my own things, sacrifice my own time to help somebody else who didn't want to make those same sacrifices.
There's some people who are in the bottom, but they really are working, and there's some people who are in the bottom and they deserve that poor GPA.
Kind of like people making money with their income?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Some people. Let's not throw shade.
Isn't it about helping the less fortunate?
You're profiting off of my work for you. So who's really the bad guy here?
I don't think that'd be a good idea, because then you're taking away from people that earn that grade, and what about the ones that aren't really working hard for their grades? So they're just gonna get something they don't really deserve.
And do you think it's similar with your salary?
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's the complete opposite of meritocracy.
I don't think they're comparable, because your GPA is not directly linked to your quality of life necessarily.
But you still have to earn it the same way you'd have to earn a salary, right?
I mean,
If you agree socialism sucks, subscribe.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you actually say it out loud. And I think that's what he was trying to get them to see. It's when you say it out loud, it's no, I don't want to just give somebody something, but that's what you wanted. That's what you said. You're like, socialism is great. No, it's not. No, it's not. All right. And moving on. Now, the next thing I want to look at is this whole controversial thing going on. And I don't know if it's controversial or not, but Jew Almighty, he pointed it out with Young Miami. I've never listened to this song because I just don't listen to music like that. But apparently it's one of these things where we're again looking at ourselves in the Black community, why are we subscribing to degeneracy? I mean, at the end of the day.
Discussion around Young Miami song Spin That.
This anthem I've seen on social media has already entered elementary schools.
Just to sit and pop some tag. Girl gonna go, yeah, bitch. Spin this.
And whether it's hurting the Black community or not.
But they don't know if they try, even attempt to do something like this, what their future is gonna come to.
All this started after Young Miami got a standing ovation at the BET Awards for her song. And India.Arie shared her thoughts about a song about scamming and boosting being so celebrated as the song of the summer.
What I want is to see people understand the power of words and music and to make choices that are healthy for them. That's what I want.
Which led to more discourse about degeneracy being pushed in the Black community through music.
Music influences our emotions. Music influences our cultural identity, social norms, right? Our attitudes and behaviors about things. Why is it that when we start talking about songs like Spin That, all of a sudden, suddenly, we taking it too seriously. We doing too much. We being too much of an auntie.
But I'm Jew. Welcome to the channel. Please like and share the video. Don't forget to sub. Now, let's get into it.
Young Miami would receive praise from the audience at this year's BET Awards and would be announced as having the song of the summer.
The whole crowd actually went crazy at this part. She walked out to give an award and they just started singing her song word for word, bar for bar. After the BET Awards, somebody posted, "I'm calling for a boycott of Young Miami song Spin That. I believe it's degrading to our culture. At some point, we have to take seriously the power music has over perception and the values it reinforces. This can't be song of the summer," which India.Arie responded responded to. I spent my entire adult life caring way too much because I finally learned that not everybody cares with the capital C, and explaining it to them is not gonna make them care. Everything you listen, see, or eat is going to influence you. So make wise choices, y'all. She then followed that up with the mass acceptance of this song is a crystal clear sign of the bigger problem. I finally realized not everybody wants to be free, and it is a very rude awakening.
This anthem I've seen on social media has already entered elementary schools, has already entered middle schools, and kids are saying it, but they don't know if they try, even attempt to do something like this, what their future is going to come to.
Now, growing number for some isn't just black adults who will be influenced by the message of the
A kid singing that is out of pocket. Don't let your kids hear that song. Don't let your kids sing that. This also brings in the bigger conversation about parenting too, and what we expose our kids or allow our kids to be exposed to through their phones, through TikTok, through all these apps. Because a kid should not know these words to this song.
But unfortunately, children who have gone viral for singing the lyrics just like it was a Gracie's Corner song.
A small intermission headed to Disney. Why are your kids singing this, singing the curse words? Why are you playing this for them to sing it? It's not cute. And then recording it and putting it on the internet. That's bad parenting. Where are the parents?
Yes, this is the pops of cake. Girl gonna go, yeah, babe. Spinachy.
If your baby can't even spell their name or write words down, why do they know the song, let alone saying curse words in context to how it's said in the song?
For those who don't know, the phrase boosting bitches where y'all at, which is repeated several times a part of the song's chorus, is shouting out women who steal, as that's what boosting means. On Wednesday, the rapper will reshare a post directly responding to NDRE, dissing her song's success. The post would go on to say, "Enough. There have been so many more successful songs about murder, the disrespect of women, drug use/dealing, etc. But Carisha's song about checks, notes, stealing, from what you can infer to be major corporations at that, and tricking is the problem with our community? Please."
I don't know why people are acting like two things can't be true in this scenario. It's true that Young Miami's song is about boosting, stealing, and basically promoting degeneracy in the black community. And it's also true she's not the only person to do that. Just about every song these days is freaked out, drugged out, or crimed out. It feels like that's all artists in our community make. That's what's promoted and pushed to us. Rap as a whole should be called out, because how many songs have we heard about dudes moving keys or killing somebody or pimping or anything else? So it just seems weird to focus on Young Miami. I get that's the song that sparked all of this conversation, what everybody is talking about, but there definitely needs to be a bigger conversation on rap as a whole and not just Young Miami.
Now, following her resharing the post reacting to Ari's criticism, Miami would then go on to say, "This for the hood, nigga. I see y'all and I feel y'all," along with her resharing that her song has now reached number 25 on Billboard's Hot 100 list.
Which led to Nikki Gilbert, who's a singer from the 90s, to chime in on the whole situation.
I get the argument that, well, girl, ain't nobody really finna be out here boosting. That's you with your grown ass, who shouldn't be bopping around to that ignorant shit anyway. But to the young, impressionable...
Impressionable being the key word when we're talking about this. In general, right? By the time your frontal lobe is fully developed, you know what you stand for, you know your principles, you know what's right and wrong, you know what's acceptable and not acceptable to do, you know what's going to affect you negatively. So a song like this to somebody in their late 20s and up, it's just music. Maybe it's just a catchy song, catchy melody, and they like it for the vibe or for the good time. But for the young adults, for the teenagers that listen to music and it inspires them or motivates them to do something, which does happen, right? A lot of us can say we listen to music when we were younger, and maybe we use that as motivation to do something, whether it was fight somebody, hustle, be ratchet. While there are also people that can say they listen to a certain type of music their whole lives and never did what that music said. So it's not automatic you're going to listen to freaky music and be freaked out. But when you're younger, you are definitely more susceptible to acting out what you see and hear through music, through the screen, through real life.
Young women, many of whom I know in my family personally, who have had issues with boosting and stealing and shit, who miss time with their kids, who weren't able to be present as parents because they were locked up for boosting and scamming. And now we got a record that has taken off, debuted on Billboard at #1. People are talking about the possibility of it becoming a Grammy-nominated record. I hope, as a voting member, that we have a say in whether or not that happens.
The fake outrage over Young Miami spin that is hypocritical and goofy. We partied and sang songs like Ain't No Fun, Snoop Dogg Facts, Annie Up, which is about robbing people, Freaking You, that's self-explanatory. Put It In Your Mouth, Explosive, yeah, all super ratchet, freaked out songs in hindsight. Y'all old heads are forgetting we were once young. Let these kids live, man. However, what I think is being left out of this conversation, there was a counterbalance that doesn't exist anymore. Back in the day, in the 90s, early 2000s, you had genres and sub-genres of rap. Yeah, you have gangster rap, but you also have artists like Tribe, Outkast, Common, Most Def, Black Thought, The Roots, Erykah Badu, all of them dropping the same time in the exact same spaces as these other albums and songs. Back in the day on the radio, they might play a DMX song, and then right after that, you would hear I'm Sorry, Miss Jackson from Outkast. There was a counterbalance that just doesn't exist anymore. And that's what this tweet pointed out. We also have Public Enemy, Queen Latifah, Arrested Development, Tupac, Outkast, as well as male and female R&B singers and groups who weren't trying to be rappers to balance that out. The counterbalance is what's missing. There definitely used to be songs or artists that uplifted black people that were just as big as the gangster rappers, if not bigger. The current mainstream black music landscape is degeneracy 24/7. The black community should be able to admit we grew up listening to this type of music, and it also probably wasn't the best type of music for us to be listening to. And I agree with this. It's been that catchy, yes. Does it have a terrible message? Yes. Is it the song of the summer? Yes. Is Indie correct? Yes. Now what? I don't think it's a simple solution of now what. The way rap music is, how big it is, how it goes direct to consumers, I think if anything, change has to happen on a personal level. If you don't like this level of degeneracy or bad messaging for the black community, don't play it. Don't play it in your household. Don't let your kids hear it or raise your kids listening to it. Just don't support it in and of yourself.
Do I think that one song is going to turn somebody into a criminal? Absolutely not. And we're going to acknowledge music will heal you, it will inspire you. But when songs start streaming billions and billions of time, it becomes a part of our cultural conversation, right? It's not just shaping fashion and language and cultural identity. It's actually teaching people how to treat us. Music influences our emotions. Music influences our cultural identity. Music and social norms, right? Our attitudes and behaviors about things. Why is it that when we start talking about songs like Spin That, all of a sudden, suddenly, we taking it too seriously. We doing too much. We being too much of an auntie.
We're not. We're not. But I also wanted to share this with you guys.
I love 15, honey, said. I love this song. Because that's one of my favorite songs. She's dancing in her living room. She's dancing in her room yesterday. 50, honey, said. It's the bun. Spanishy, Spanishy, Spanishy. I love Spanishy, and I Spanishy, Spanishy.
And there is a grown adult standing behind this child, snapping their fingers. But see, music carries a spirit. And that's not what I hear from any of this, right? So I paged you, and I'm going to play something from Ice Cube here in a second. But nobody really talks about the spirit that is attached to the music, that when it carries through, yes, it carries into you. Now, we forget sometimes, like when you're in church, it does carry a spirit, it does carry a vibe, but it does the same thing with this other worldly music. We seem to forget who the highest choir of angels was. It was Lucifer. Music is his territory. Why are we so shocked that it's so demonic? But we don't talk about that part, right? Because not all of it is demonic, but what's being that promoted is. We can't get away from that.
Let's take it. Same people who own the labels own the prisons. Literally the same people? Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons. The records that come out really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
But they didn't make you write those lyrics.
It's not about making somebody write the lyrics. It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't. You know, some social engineering going on here to make sure those prisons stay full.
Do they actually, like, Monday, Tuesday go to work as a record company executive and Wednesday through Friday go to work at the prisons? No.
No.
Okay, so if
of course they're not actually running the labels.
They
running those
have
things.
financial interest.
Yeah, they have financial interest in it. And what Ice was trying to say is it's the money influence, right? And the same people influencing the music to say, hey, it's okay to go out and steal are the same people invested in the prisons, right? So when these people get to prison, they've got cheap labor. They've got free labor almost, right? Because see, under the 13th Amendment, when you commit a crime and you go to jail, you become a slave. And this is the part that our children that are free don't think about. We just heard the song of the summer is about stealing. What happens when you steal? Well, for some of them, they've been conditioned to steal and then they'll get let go. But now the ones that are stealing currently, they're being put in jail. Interesting how that's working. And now they're just going to have a whole prison pipeline of young people who have no morals, who don't know about rules, who don't care. And they will spend their lives in prison wondering what happened. Well, you know, like Pinocchio, and I think you should watch it. Those bad kids, when they turned into donkeys. Yeah, it's that. Now let's check out this last video by Ashley B.
5 in Hinds County, Mississippi. A contractor named McDonald leased 204 black men from the state penitentiary. 6 months later, 20 of them were dead, tortured to death. 23 had been returned too sick or beaten to work. The hospital was filled with men whose bones were coming through their skin. Historian David Oshinsky has documented that the conditions of convict leasing were worse than slavery. The country called this freedom, 40 years after the 13th Amendment. This country called itself great. A 9-year-old girl in a textile mill in North Carolina. She was made by a power loom that morning. The machine took the tip of her index finger. The foreman docked her pay for crying. She wrapped her finger in a piece of cloth and finished her shift. That was a Tuesday in 1905. There were 1.75 million children working in American factories that year. The country had decided that that was acceptable. This country called itself great. A woman in Atlanta woke up in 1905 next to a man who had raped and beaten her. She buried 2 of their children as a result of his abuse, and she was pregnant with a 3rd. But the law gave him custody if she left. The law didn't recognize marital rape as a crime in any state in this country. The Comstock Act made it a federal offense to send her any information about contraception. She had no way out. Millions of women in this country had no way out. This country called itself great. That was 1905, and now here's the thing that gets me. The country spent the next 120 years being forced to do better by people who refused to accept it. And almost every fight took longer than it should have. The woman in Atlanta who couldn't legally refuse her husband in 1905. That law didn't change in all 50 states until 1993. The last state to make it a crime in this country was North Carolina. They held out until they were the only one left. The 204 men in Hinds County. The convict leasing system that killed them didn't officially end nationwide until 1928. And even then it was modified. Chain gangs in the 1950s. Prison labor leased to private corporations through the entire second half of the century. Right now, in 2026, there are incarcerated Americans working for cents on the hour, making products sold by major American corporations. The model never died, it just kept changing form. The 9-year-old at the loom. The federal government didn't pass a binding law against child labor that actually held up in court until 1938. My grandma was 11 in 1938. The Fair Labor Standards Act is what it's called. But that happened 33 years after she lost her finger. And in 2024, multiple states started rolling back child labor protections. Iowa, Arkansas, Florida, Wisconsin, letting kids work for longer hours, in meatpacking plants, in construction, in jobs the federal government spent 90 years saying that they shouldn't be in. This country also did a lot of things in 120 years that nobody likes to talk about. Between 1945 and 1947, researchers at Vanderbilt University gave 829 pregnant women, in Tennessee, mind you, what the women were told were vitamin drinks. There were actually doses of radioactive iron. The women were not told. 4 of their children later died of cancers, leukemia, sarcoma, connected to that radiation. The study was federally funded. The findings were published in 1969. The women did not find out what had been done to them until decades later, only when the documents were declassified under the Clinton administration in the 1990s. From 1951 to 1974, Albert Kligman at Holmesburg Prison in Philadelphia ran medical experiments on incarcerated men. Almost all of them were black. Almost all of them were poor. They were paid a few dollars apiece. Kligman injected them with dioxin, tested radioactive isotopes on their skin, exposed them to chemical warfare agents, tested products for Johnson & Johnson and Dow Chemicals, and the U.S. Army. He called the men acres of skin, and the University of Pennsylvania let him do it for 23 years. And the University of Pennsylvania has still not formally apologized. The Tuskegee experiment, which most people have heard of, was not the only one. The U.S. Public Health Service also ran a similar experiment in Guatemala. This was done in the 1940s. They deliberately infected over 5,500 Guatemalans, prisoners, mental patients, soldiers, sex workers, with syphilis and other STDs, all to test penicillin. The U.S. government didn't formally apologize for that one until 2010. The Eugene Sanger experiments at the University of Cincinnati from 1960 to 1971. The Department of Defense funded a doctor to expose 90 cancer patients, most of them poor and black, to massive doses of whole-body radiation. The official purpose was to study how radiation would affect soldiers in nuclear war. Many of the patients died within months. They had not been told what was being done to them. So this is the part I keep coming back to. We've been taught the highlight reel over and over again. Brown v. Board, the Civil Rights Act, Roe v. Wade. You know, the big court cases, right? The big laws. And don't get me wrong, because every single one of those matters. But the same country that did all of those things was also doing the Vanderbilt experiments, the Holmesburg experiments, Guatemala, Cincinnati, Tuskegee experiments, while also keeping marital rape legal, while also extending convict leasing into prison labor, while also still letting children work in fields and factories. The progress and the harm were happening all at the same time, by the same federal government, under the same administration. The country was passing the Civil Rights Act with one hand, and approving radiation experiments on black cancer patients with the other. The country was legalizing birth control for married couples in 1965, and still letting husbands legally rape their wives in most states. The country was passing the Americans with Disabilities Act in 1990, and forcibly sterilizing disabled women in state institutions into the 1970s. This country has always done two things at once, multiple things at once. Now I want to tell you what 2025 looked like. In 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. By 2025, women in this country were dying of preventable pregnancy complications because hospitals were afraid to provide miscarriage care. Amber Thurman in Georgia, Candy Miller in Georgia, Jocelyn Barnaca in Texas, Nevaeh Crane in Texas, all black or brown, all dead from conditions that a non-pregnant person would have been treated for immediately. Those women were murdered by policy. In Georgia in 2025, a 30-year-old black nurse named Adriana Smith went to the hospital with severe headaches in her first trimester. They sent her home with some medication. They did not run a single test. The next morning, her boyfriend found her gasping for air, blood clots in her brain. She was declared brain dead on February 18th. She had a 7-year-old son who was waiting for her at home. Her family wanted her to go, but Georgia wouldn't let them. The state's 6-week abortion ban meant that dead woman's body became state property. So they kept her on machines for 4 months while her family sat next to her, while her 7-year-old asked when mommy was coming home. A Black woman died in February, and the state of Georgia didn't let her family bury her until June, because what was inside her mattered more than she did, than her family did, than her son did. They held that woman's body hostage. Then they handed her family a premature baby and a corpse and called it pro-life. In 2023, the Supreme Court overturned race-conscious admissions in higher education. 50 years of policy designed to address nearly 2.5 centuries of legal exclusion gone in one ruling. In 2024, multiple states have made it illegal to provide gender-affirming care to trans youth. Some made it illegal for trans adults. Parents have been investigated by CPS. Doctors have been arrested. Trans kids have died of suicide because they cannot access care that would have saved their lives. In 2025, the Trump administration restructured the federal government. Executive Order 14148 imposed Schedule F on the federal workforce. Career civil servants were fired and replaced with political loyalists. The Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division was gutted. In 2025, the Supreme Court allowed mifepristone restrictions to stand. The most common method of medication abortion was made functionally inaccessible to millions of women. In 2025, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed in July. $990 billion cut from Medicaid over 10 years. The biggest cut to healthcare for poor Americans in this country's history. Children will die. Disabled people will die. Elderly people will die. And they named it Big Beautiful. In 2025, the Department of Justice abandoned disparate impact as a tool for enforcing civil rights laws. That framework has been used since 1971, and it is gone. In 2025, books were banned from school libraries at a rate not seen since the McCarthy era. You know, the Red Scare. Mostly by Black authors, queer authors, about race, sexuality, slavery, lynching, or American history.
And I'll let you guys watch the rest of that. I gotta dip mind my time, as they say. Now, there are some things that I agree with her on, some things that I don't. When it comes to a particular community that she was discussing, yes, there have been cases where certain doctors that have performed those surgeries from individuals that were like, I made a mistake. Why did you do this to me? They've won those cases, because what has not happened is no one asked that child, really, why are we here? Why do you feel this way? When you had pressure, honestly, from the public, this is okay to do, without any testing, without really investigating and looking at it and saying, maybe we need to give these children time. Maybe we need to give these individuals time, because what she's not mentioning in there is prior to the height, I should say, of wanting to do these transitional surgeries, people had to wait decades because it is permanent. You can't go back. Once you start cutting up your body in that way, it's over. And a lot of these people that do, unfortunately, take their lives, they take their lives because the medication they're on makes them want to. Or they go through it and they can't revert back and they don't know what else to do. Because, see, we didn't deal with the issue, the main issue in the first place. Why have you stopped loving who you are to the point that you want to mutilate yourself to be happy? Nobody puts it in that context. But if you did, trust me, you would have a different outcome. But I wanted to play that video to say that, yes, America does evil and great all at the same time. Just like there's always going to be a power struggle between good and evil. You will always have both until Jesus' return. And that's it. So thank you so much for joining me this morning for Tell It All Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow with Women in Wellness Wednesday. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.